to be a winner. You don't have to steal to get enough. You don't have to lie and call me brother. Sometimes I think I just about had enough. Another war begins in South Africa. Oh my God. Another night of shambles, guns and knives. And the reason why it's so easy to discover is them diamonds in the ground worth more than my life. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, people make me cry. People make me sad. Some people in this world, they make me sad. Oh, been there. Sometimes I think, take my life too serious. Yes, there are many things I still don't understand. But you can't say for me that I am not curious. And it would make me happy when we all make a stand. Yes. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sad. Some people in this world, they make me sad. Hey! Sometimes I think I take my life too serious. Yes, there are many things I still don't understand. But you can't say for me that I am not curious. And it would make me happy when we all make a stand. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sad. Some people in this world, they make me sad. I'll tell you why. Because you don't have to cheat to be a winner. No, no. You don't have to steal to get enough. You cannot take my life away and still call me brother. Sometimes I think I just about had enough. What? You take my home, you take my pride, you still want to use me? Oh, you're cutting my inside out like a knife. You cannot take it all away and still abuse me. It's them diamonds in the ground worth more than my life. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sad. Some people in this world, they make me sad. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sigh. Some people in this world they make me sigh. Oh, I don't hold me down the day. Oh, my day, hold me down the door. Make me sigh. Some people in this world they make me sigh. Oh, been there. Sometimes I think, take my life too serious. Yes, there are many things I still don't understand. But you can't say for me that I am not curious. And it would make me happy when we all make a stand. Yes. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sigh. Some people in this world, they make me sigh. Sometimes I think I take my life too serious. Yes, there are many things I still don't understand. But you can't say for me that I am not curious. And it would make me happy when we all make a stand. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sigh. Some people in this world, they make me sigh. I'll tell you why. Because you don't have to cheat to be a winner. No, no. You don't have to steal to get enough. You cannot take my life away and still call me brother. Sometimes I think I just about had enough. What? You take my home, you take my pride, you still want to use me. Oh, you're cutting my inside out like a knife. You cannot take it all away and still abuse me. It's them diamonds in the crown worth more than my life. People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, how I cry. People make me sigh. Some people in this world, they make me sigh. People make me cry.
I am not original. And maybe none of us who grace the airwaves can claim originality. But I come from the seed of originality. King David Rudder, we happen to say to share the same first name, but that's not why I love this brother. And I am not the only Rudderite. We have a Rudderite on tonight in a couple of minutes. They say when God was sharing gifts to Calypsonians, he gave Sparrow all the gifts. But I'm saying, when he was sharing gifts, he gave David Rudder a special gift. The king philosopher of Calypso in our time, Africa, just the name of that, Calypso. A little bit of jazz from our brothers and sisters to the north. We came on the same ship from the same place, dispersed in the Americas. That's why they say diaspora. It means dispersed. A little bit of jazz, a little bit of Shango. We call it Comfort in Guyana. They call it Santeria in Cuba. They call it Shouter Baptist in some part of the Eastern Caribbean. They call it Pocomania in Jamaica. And they call it Voodoo in Haiti. A little bit of jazz. A little bit of folk. And plenty calypso. David Michael Rudder, Africa. Sometimes I feel that I take myself too seriously. You want to kill me. You want to beat me and you still want to call me brother. You want to tear out me inside and you still want to call me brother. Sometimes I feel I've had enough. But when I think about them gold, when I think about the oil, I gotta stand up. Some people said David Hines is about identity politics. Whatever that means, identity means to what or to which I identify. I identify with Rudder. I'm a Rudderite. When I was younger and I got to Rudder concerts, I used to be up front, under this stage up front, to touch the hem of his garments. Those of you who are Christian understand what I'm talking about. Good evening and welcome. I know I don't have to tell you all to share the link. Some of you all are very, very astute. You already shared the link. Tonight's program is special. We're having Amanza Walton. I've been told by my younger producer, Dr. Hines is no longer Amanza Walton Desir. She dropped Desir, and she's now Amanza Walton. And I have to confess, I don't be too much on the. I ought to, but I don't be too much on the social media, so I don't know this thing. But my producer swear to God that is no longer Amanza Walton Desir, is Amanza Walton. Well, for me, is Amanza. When I first started this show, 2021, yes, it's 5 years, more than 5 years. Amanza was one of the co-owners. When I couldn't find guests, Amanza was one of my go-to person. But you know, she get big now. You know, Puppy the Stun Dog and so on. and I have to make appointments. God bless God don't sleep, you know. He put me for sit down there to she in Parliament. So I get to talk to her a little regularly. So the appointment day is done. We're back to where we begin. Amanza Walton is on tonight. And as you have noticed this week, I'm in the mood for hard questions and hard answers. Last night we had a hell of a show with Shamus Solomon and Dr. Adams and uh, Apostle London talking about Linden and whether Lindeners are massacreists or whether Lindeners are people who could do wrong things and did wrong things, but were not barbarians. I think, in essence, that's what we talked about last night. Deep shit, as they say. And I'm not using shit here in the negative sense, you know? You know, as we learn here that the word dogger, the origin of the word, it comes from Hindu Sanskrit, which means the child of a prostitute. But as we in the Caribbean do, we take negative things and make them positive. We turn Douglas to mean the fusion and the unity of different ethnicities. But when they create the word, so I'm not telling you I'll stop using Douglas, because when we use it in a positive sense. And so, therefore, last night we had a hell of a program. And the night before, we had Takumo Gunse, Sister Adriana Thomas. And before that, Vincent Alexander, which Vincent Alexander's program was widely covered in the conventional media because he dealt with the issue there of whether the current opposition leader has any authority or power under the law to recall current commissioners. And so there was an interest in that beyond politics. And tonight, Amanza is here, and you know, I said on this program that whether you like Azuddin Mohammed or not, star. And I think Amanza is also a rock star. One of the things about living in a village is you get to walk, you get to talk, and you get to listen, and you also get to eavesdrop. And one of the things is that young people talk to me as an old man and so on, right? Sometimes they just tell me that I got a little swag in me as an old man, so they talk to me. And so it's not just about talking to the older people who I think I'm in touch with their political rhythm, but I'm learning now from talking to young people that they are perhaps more informed and more in the thing than we give them credit for. Because they just tell me something that I myself just want to fall off. You know, the old Calypsonian spoilers say, I want to fall. Young people recite to me my own words sometimes, and I be shocked because I just forget what I say. When you're talking every day, you forget what you say yesterday or last week. And so when young people meet me and tell me, and I say, what you mean? And they say it's not, you said it towards the night, and so on. And so in a sense, Amanza is a rock star. We have to deal with that phenomenon in our politics. I always said the first rock star in modern politics was David Granger. I remember when David Granger came on the scene. I mean, that brother was treated with a kind of royalty that I don't even think Burnham and Chagan got treated with. And I think he introduced, if you will, the rock star phenomenon in our politics. I'm not saying there weren't political rock stars before, but I think in the modern era, there is a thing. I mean, Brian Lara was our first millionaire cricketer. And people don't realize that. And so in many regards, he was the first rock star. So when you see the others nowadays, Hetmeyer, don't make more than 30 or 40 runs, but he's a rock star. You know, and you try to figure it, or figure it out. They used to get people who making thousand runs. And now Ed Miles was going to walk out, and he got on on his knee, and he last couple ball, he make 30 runs, but he's a rock star. That's why when I meet you at the airport the other night, I said, bye, I am so age, and I look older than I am because of you. Because you're breaking my heart so many times. And if I get on a belt, I would have asked your coach permission for put some good lash on you. Yeah, of course, he has a sense of humor, and he laughed and promised to do better. He went on to the World Cup and did do better, although he's still making me put on a 2 months from age and every time he walked to the crease. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. I think you all are ready for Amanza Walton. Amanza Walton. Amanza, is my producer correct? Or are they carrying tales out of school? Yes, you have to.
Oh, hi, Doc. Good night. Lovely to be here. If your producer is correct about what?
About you making it easy for us to call your name now. You dropped your name, and you know Amanza Walton.
Listen,
yes.
As we talking the thing, let me talk the thing. So I have been Amanza Walton for maybe the last 10 years, but I have children. So it's very easy. It's much easier when you have children and you travel together that you all have the same last name. So now that my children are adults, I am returning the name that Ovid Walton left for me. So anybody who knows me knows that this is not anything new or recent.
Yeah. And the reason I'm laughing is that we Guyanese and Caribbean and perhaps poor people always have to fight up with this name story. People would remember when Gail Teixeira was half cussing me in Parliament. She said, David Osborne. Because I've had to change my surname when my mother sent for we in America.
I see.
You see? Yes. So she was Heinz. So when she sent for we, the white people said they gotta get the same.
You see what I'm saying? All right. Good. So you can bear me out on this matter.
Yeah. So there is a critical mass of people in Buxton who still call me Osborne. They haven't gotten used to the Heinz thing after almost 50 years. Because when I was a school boy, I was Osborne. When we done school, my mother sent for me, I got changed from Osborne to Heinz. So when Gail Teixeira knew me as a teenager, because she headed a drama group called Worker Stage, a PPP drama group. And me and 3 other brothers, brother Sir McGarrell, Sir brother Busty, I think the 3 of us, walk off the road from Buxton, went to Freedom House, and say, we hear you all get a drama group. We are dramatists from Buxton. We want to join it because we're interested in racial unity. And we were part of that group for almost 3 years. So, and that's how I first met Gail Teixeira, who is a very, very close friend, despite our political thing. And so when she was abusing me in Parliament the other day for straying from what I used to be, she said, in the days when I was Osborne, I was the PPP was palatable to me. But since it turned Heinz, so I know the name story.
No, but isn't there like a story behind that though, Dr. Hines? Isn't there a deeper tale behind that? How we lose sight very often of the things that could bind us.
Yes.
Art, culture. And this is why I always am very pained because of the way we're losing our culture.
Yeah.
That is a singularly binding phenomenon that we don't make use of enough. And I know a lot of young people in drama groups, etc. And it is such a healing, mending thing that I worry that we lose sight of it. And for some reason, you and Gail could could mend over drama and art and so on. But then when we get to politics, there's something about it that is so divisive.
Yes. So bereft of the human element.
So bereft of the human element,
Yes.
and that need to come together and to operate. And then, earlier today I had, it's amazing that you talked about Rockstar. I was smiling because I was driving down the road and I drove in a pothole in a Durban street, very deep pothole. And of course, I'm upset because the road is flooded, so you don't know how deep the pothole is. And I started thinking about ministers and the role of ministers in government, and that maybe um the fact that we treat public servants as rock stars may be the issue, right?
Yeah.
Because we forget the element of service.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, because there are two aspects of two types, I think, of democracies where people understand that, in political science, you're a political scientist, the principal agent type relationship, where the
Hmm.
people are the principals and we in the members in the parliament are their agents. And it's never that the agent tells the principal what to do, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how we have it inverted. And because we see people in government as these rock stars and as these demigods, and and we see politics and aspiring to political office as a means to get rich, and as patronage, right? And we forget that service element of it. We
Yeah.
do a couple
Yeah.
of things. We attack people who may genuinely want to make a contribution, because in our minds, that is what government is about. It's about status and position and not service. So we see a person striving towards status and not service.
Yeah.
But you and I would talk about these things all the time, but that's not
Right.
what we came here tonight to talk
Yeah, yeah,
about.
but Amanza, no, it's important. And let me tell you this. I have had to grapple with it because I come from the nigger yard of yesterday, meaning I come from a politics that is not rock starish. You can call Quayana many things, but not a rock star, right?
Right,
And
right,
he instilled in us what you were just talking about there, a kind of service, avoiding that kind of people telling you you're God and so on and so forth. But the world moves on, and a set of young men during the budget debate, I was going on one night, as you know, after 1, 2 o'clock, 1 hour late nights. And I was passing at the line top there where they congregate and so on, and they stopped me. And these are young men in their 20s. And they're what we call street boys, meaning
right.
they get a motorbike, they get a fancy thing and so on. And they said, Doc, like you and Amanza, all right. I said, why you ask me to? Well, I didn't know that when we there in Parliament, that put the camera on you and so on and so on.
Oh,
So they're telling me that they see me and you gaffing, and they picked up that I would gaff with Priya, who was sit across from us and so on. So I
mhm.
said, yeah, me and Amanza, all right, Somehow you can't talk to, she will come back in the because we think that we can win if she's one of the top candidates and so on. So I said, well, why you all say that?
Big man, you know you invite me on this program to talk about different
Listen,
things.
and they tell me that about Azadin. And recently, they've been telling me it about Dexter Todd. And I'm
Mhm.
saying this because the young people are working out their own relationship with those of us who offer ourselves up as leader. They ain't telling me, well, she deep in political science. She I think they take those things for granted, but they're going to something human, something something that we political scientists have dropped from our description of politics, and that's that human instinct. I don't know why I like this by, or but I just like it. And I think
Mhm.
that is something that we have to grapple with. Right? And that's where I have been thinking about the rock star phenomenon and how we can take something that may on the surface be negative, but turn it in to a positive. And I think we have to grapple with these new changes. Um, you and I share something. We are deeply in love with David Rudder.
Yes,
Why,
yes.
why, why you love that brother?
I mean, who expresses a thought grounded in the Caribbean reality the way David Rudder does?
Yes,
I mean, I'll wait. You name me one person and I will wait. The
yes,
man has a utility of words.
yes,
And it's unlike anything I've ever seen, you know, and his pieces are always a tune of the time. If you want to know what was happening in a particular time, listen to a David Rudder song.
yeah,
He would tell you about 1990,
yes,
right? You want to understand what's happening with Haiti. Look at the piece he just played, Africa. You know, I had the experience, I had the chance to listen to see him in concert at UE when I was at school in Trinidad many years ago. It's something like you've never seen. Well, you've seen it multiple times.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
you can't describe it.
yeah, 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 yeah. And that's what I'm talking. It is that thing that the words to
A
describe it
certain
doesn't.
je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, yeah,
But if the French have the word for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Amanza, a lot has happened in the last year with you, as far as politics are concerned. Um, you were a leading member of the PNC as a parliamentarian and member of the Central Executive and so on. Um, you made your exit, you formed your own party. You made it to parliament in a political atmosphere that is not kind to so-called third parties.
Yeah.
Um, and we now have a situation in Guyana where we have first parties, second parties, third parties, and people like you and I have to refer to ourselves as fourth parties. And I was saying on this program earlier this week that one of the things that I have great respect for you for, because I've heard you in public with it and I've heard you in private. Whenever you've been asked about the WPA and third parties, when you were in a force party, you never denigrated us. You always say that there is a place in our political quilt for parties like the WPA, for parties like the AFC, for parties. And the reason I respect you for that, because you are now a party like ours. And you have to deal with the reality of what it is to be a so-called third party, and now in Guyana's case, a so-called fourth party, um, and so forth. And recently, you and I were walking out of Parliament together and discussing the state of the opposition, and apparently some pictures were flashed, and I was asked whether those pictures meant I'm going to join the FGM, or Amanza coming to join back the APNU, and so on. And I mean, our people are so curious. Rather said in that thing, you can't tell me I am not curious. It's the curious West Indian he's talking about there. But you have gone through these changes, and I'm not asking you for some qualitative assessment of the changes. I'm not asking you why you made the changes. There's a place, another day for that. What I want to get from you is, what have you learned as you've made this transition from a first party to a so-called third or fourth party, but you're still in the mix because you are in parliament and you're still in we face.
I learned, I will tell you, more about myself and the stuff that I am made of than anything else. As it relates to the external, I learned that the people of Guyana are hungry for a new way, but we are short of leaders that will say, this is the way. The rise of parties like Forward Guyana Movement and WIN is not accidental. It's a response to a desire in the heart of Guyanese people. And as people who would lead in one regard and serve in another, we have to be nimble enough to pay attention. Because at any one time, leadership, political leadership, is a reflection of the soul of the nation. And what you're seeing is a desire for a different way. What you're seeing is an acknowledgement that what we've been used to is not working anymore. And we want something new, we want something different. And our job as political leaders is to hear the people and respond accordingly. Because in the politics of it, the constitution, sovereignty belongs to them, to the people who exercise it through their elected representatives. And so we have to evolve as our people evolve, and we have to grow as our people grow. And Guyana is telling you that we're tired of the two-party type thing. In a multi-ethnic, multicultural society, there has to be a mechanism where, yeah, we don't see eye to eye on everything. The WPA and FGM may not be on all fours ideologically, but in the wider scheme of things, in the bigger scheme of things, our interests intersect and they complement each other. And so how do we agree without being disagreeable? How do we disagree without being disagreeable, rather? So working those things out is something that I had to learn and to do, as well as what to say and what not to say, because sometimes as a political leader, you feel the need to justify yourself. I left the PNC. People want me to bash the PNC and bash Aubrey Norton. Why? Why? And it takes more discipline not to say sometimes and to go out there and to affect somebody that is on the same side of the fence as you in any event. So discipline is something that I also realize you have to have a lot of if you're going to operate politically. So those are just two of the things I've learned, but for the entire journey, just gratitude about what you're learning and understanding that in politics you cannot always be stuck in one mindset, because the world is evolving right? And so you must necessarily evolve with it lest you become a relic.
Yeah, yeah. And Manza, when you get as old as I am, both chronologically but politically, meaning you're in the business a long time, you get to change your hats every now and again. And so I'm changing my hat now to the professorial hat. And because I'm interested in your observation that there's a crying out for change, a movement from the binary of PPP and PNC, and that new parties like WIN and FGM they are a reflection of that change. But have you taken into consideration that that manifestation of this yearning for a change happens on one side of our ethno-political division and not on the other side? Because both FGM and
Mhm,
WIN gather their votes for the most part from
mhm,
the African community, and that the same kind of organizational manifestation of this
mhm.
yearning for change is not manifested on the side of the Indo Guyanese political constituency.
I think I don't agree with the proposition.
Okay,
I think it manifests itself differently, but it
okay.
manifests itself nonetheless. It may
That is why I
manifest
said
itself,
that is why I said organizationally.
right. It might manifest itself quietly.
All right, okay,
It
all right.
may manifest it, but there is discontent.
Yeah, uh-huh.
There is discontent. And there is discontent like there has never been discontent before.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So we have to appreciate what that is and not try to bring it down to binary elements where it's not necessarily the case.
But
Because
why
I was
is that discontent not manifested itself well, why is the discontent manifest itself organizationally on one
mhm.
side and not the other side? You feel
Because I it is if you harken back to 2015, right? If you harken back to 2015, it's the exact thing. You see the rise of the AFC and then the minority government and then the coalition. And so there has always been a side that has been a catalyst for change.
mhm,
And what you're seeing is that catalytic effect,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So I view it as a good thing. I view it as a positive thing,
mhm.
which is because unless you have people who are catalysts for change, what are we doing? We're going around this one bush all the time. And so I don't think it has anything to do as much anymore with an expression of ethnicity as it does with an expression of class, right? Because now you're finding the struggle is more classist, and then you have to figure out what makes people tick. Some people could be discontent, but they're gonna stay right here because that is what they're used to. That is what they know. Some people will be discontented and they will decide, I want to strike out.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to strike out on my own. I want to explore. I want to make a move to something different, better, in my opinion. So
yeah,
it's a deep sociological question, and in the context of Guyana, requires frank analysis.
yeah, yeah. And part of what I'm trying to do here is to get with that frank analysis, and I'm cognizant of history. Very early on this program, you attempted some sociological explanation, which got you in a lot of trouble, because we live in a country in which our political divide, um, in a sense, it blanks out a lot of the space for an honest discussion about politics. And when one attempts, as you did then and as you're doing tonight, an honest discussion of politics that intersects with race or ethnicity, um, you get into a certain kind of trouble. And I'm very cognizant of that. But you've raised the issue of race and class. And it is um, one of the issues that has really emanated from our long struggle of the poor and the powerless versus the powerful, but coming out of enslavement and the birth of race, the question of those who are racially not people and those who are racially people. And any serious thinker, any serious political activist in a place like Guyana has to deal with that question of race and class. Whether you are W.B. Du Bois in the United States,
Yes.
or Malcolm X, or Walter Rodney, or Burnham, or Jagan, we've all had to grapple with the tension between race and class and the way in which we try to synthesize race and class, and therefore keeps out a lot of the unnecessary noise. And it's interesting that you went there, but you are saying it's not race, it's class.
No,
And I
I'm not.
think,
I can't say that it's not race.
all
I'm
right,
saying that there is a recession of it simply because of the resources that we now have.
yes,
And so
yes,
you've created a class of have and have nots.
yes,
Now, whether the have nots comprise of a greater set of people than another set
yes,
is a different story. And this is where I think leadership is important, Dr. Hines, because I think for many, many years we've been about proving a point, right? And we've been consumed with being right in our viewpoint rather than being right, what is right for Guyana. There are a couple of things about us that will never change. We are a multi-ethnic, multicultural society. And that those are the facts. And we have suffered with a system of governance, a winner takes all system that is completely at odds with the nature of the society that we are. Now, the way I approach things, I decide what gets my energy. So there's a debate going on about race and so on and so forth. And yes, it has to be acknowledged. Yes, it is happening. But then what? This, for example, this thing about whether slavery and indentureship were alike and so on. These things will always persist and be with us. But there's a wider question of the political system within which all of us have to live and operate. And so for me, the issue is, and my energy, because energy is energy is energy. My energy is I prefer to focus it on how do we create an electoral a governance structure that is responsive to the fact that we are multicultural and having our own cultural background, experiences, and conditioning, that we are of different ethnicities, and all of that comes with it. Recently the UN designated slavery as the worst crime against humanity in our history. Science has shown that 400 years of oppression has had a direct impact on the DNA of people that look like me. And so there are these realities that we have to concede may always exist. But if it will always exist, and even if we are able to deal with it to the point that we're saying, okay, we all have to get together, we will never be monolithic. We're not a homogeneous society. And then you have a situation where now the mixed population is growing fastest, which means people from different races can't be really bothered with this old binary of this or that. They're meeting, falling in love, having children, having families. and enlarging the population. So where do they fit in this binary?
Sociologically, you're asking because
Sociologically,
politically they fit. Black
right?
Douglas vote
Sociologically. And
Black
so,
Douglas vote PNC. Indian Douglas, or what we call in the country hard-haired Douglas vote PNC, and straight-haired Douglas vote PPP. So at the political level, Douglas don't change nothing. But you do agree.
and
I do agree
I
with you.
don't.
But sociologically, it
Mhm.
changes and it poses problems for the politics.
It it
But
poses
yeah,
problems for the politics.
yes,
But I have this, and people may say it's naive, and the more experienced people want to say, oh, it's politically naive and whatever. But I have this urge in me that says that just maybe we could shift it away from the identity. Maybe if enough of us as leaders begin to shift it away from identity, not denying identity, but not making identity the basis on which we function politically, and we could start talking about issues, then maybe we could get this country to where it has to go.
yeah,
So
yeah,
people may say it is naive, people may say this, but I submit that every great change was birthed from a group of people who see something. The odds are against them and say, you know what, nevertheless, we got to persist. Nevertheless, we are going to try. And so not because I'm unaware that there are these tensions and I see you had a very spirited discourse with Brother Ogonze and so on. I'm not unaware that these exist. But man, where you put your energy is where you get results. And I am focusing my energy on making sure that we raise the consciousness of our people so that we begin to understand that, one, we are deserving of a better country. If you're Black, you're Indian, you're Amerindian, you're Chinese, you're deserving of a better Guyana. And anything that detracts or takes away from Guyana being a better Guyana, we have to shun. And racism and identity politics is something that has bedeviled us for the last 60 years. So how long more are we going to encompass around that bush that has not yielded anything but kept us in conflict with each other, and is now
yeah,
allowing
yeah.
other people to come in and reap the riches of our nation? Meanwhile, we are continuing to be embroiled in this thing down here. I have no interest in continuing to be embroiled in this thing down here. And if my life's work is to make sure that as long as I am here, that we're able to raise the consciousness of Guyanese to say, look up, pay attention, because we got here on different boats, but we in here together now.
Yeah, yeah, and your point is well taken that we all have different roles to play, and therefore there must be space for the various roles. I think my own view is that we have always approached at the formal level these issues of race, class, and gender. We have always opposed them. We have always approached them as separate constructs and not as constructs in which there are intersections. That gender intersects with race and race intersects with class. And I suppose your thesis, it is the intersection of race, gender, and class that the sweet spot may be to really, in a sense, tone down the divides and tone up the intersections. And I'm totally, let me just say, you're a student of history. I'm sure of that. I'm a student of history. The person who first put on the table a proposal for solving the winner-take-all system, which you have taken up, as you are saying, the person who put as a man named UC Kwayana, who at that time headed a Black racial organization. The point I'm making here, that you can't be part of an identity politics, but identity politics don't mean that you're not a part of a politics of healing, right? So Kwayana was identity, as in Asquare Black, but he also was looking out for the country and says that, look, you have two ethnic groups here that are fighting each other. I belong to one. I'm an advocate for one. But I want a Guyana where all them live together. And so I am putting forward a joint premiership between the leaders of the African side and the Indian side. Well, of course, the Amerindians weren't part of the fighting up and killing up and so on, right? And I'm sure that's the reason he didn't include their leader as part of joint premiership. Here we are, 60 odd years later, grappling with Kwayana's thing. And Kwayana's thesis, in a sense, says, look, these are the political realities. We have a bunch of black people who saying they don't want to rule by Indians, and Indians who don't want to rule by black people. But we live in the same place.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about here. So let me take you to the winner-take-all politics. And I'm walking.
Before you go there, Dr. Hines, there's a point that has to be, I think you're making it, but we got to hammer it home. Because people believe that to advocate for the healing of this political divide, you have to abandon your identity.
Right.
I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman with locks. Right. You know? So and that is what I will be.
Right.
And I do not have to downplay that in order to make a contribution to the healing of the nation. In fact, it is me being who I am. It is my Indian brother being who he is and bringing all of that enriches this nation. And so I think that is something we have to push back against. That not because that it's not mutually exclusive. It's not at odds with each other to identify strongly as something, but also to be invested in the healing and reconciliation of those in your nation.
Yes, and I'm very glad you made the point and not me. And here on the program tonight. You know, Amanza, in 1961, Kwayana called for joint premiership. Jagan and Burnham said no. 2 years later, in 1963, Dr. Jagan put forward a proposal to Burnham. He said, we'll split the government in half. The PPP will take the prime ministership. The PNC will get the deputy prime ministership and the Ministry of Home Affairs and so on. So in a sense, he embraced the end-to-winner-take-all system, by which time Mr. Burnham had gotten a hint that the system was going to change from first past the post to PR. Mm-hmm. And so that he didn't need that construct to get into power. And you come to 1977, Jagan comes again with another proposal for a national patriotic front that includes the PNC and the PPP as running the country. Mr. Burnham said no. He said if the Mensheviks, if the Bolsheviks, meaning the majority in the Russian Revolution, are joined with the Mensheviks, the minority, there would be no Russian Revolution. In 1985, is Burnham turn now. The Cold War is coming to an end. Guyana is bankrupt economically. Burnham goes to Jagan. Let's begin to talk about a power sharing government. As bad luck would have it, Burnham dies. Hoyt said, I ain't going with that story thing, right? Jagan, on the eve of 1992, says once he gets into power, he's going to advance the Mandela formula. Mandela came to power, and Mandela looked around. He said, I have the electoral majority, but I have to heal a nation. So he called in the clerk, and he said, you're going to be a vice president in me government. And then when the radical Africans in Catalan start behave bad, he called their leader and he said, you're going to be the Minister of Home Affairs. You're going to stop the story. And that became known as the Mandela model. And Jagan said, when I get into power, I'm going to embrace the Mandela model. He gets into power, he turns his back on the Mandela model. Corbyn and Jagdeo, in the face of public pressures, met again, and they decide that we got share this power sharing story. Hoyt, before he died, after much resistance, said power sharing is an idea whose time has come. Corbyn feels that he has to take Hoyt's vision to another level. And so he and Jagdeo sit down, they hammer out a power sharing arrangement. Jagdeo goes and he comes back and he said, deal off, right? They blame Janet Jagan for it, the stories. Now, I tell you that history to say that you and I are part of a longer tradition that has searched for a healing of the nation. And I am answering your question as to whether you're naive. No, you're not naive in believing that we can solve this thing. If you're naive, then Quayana was naive, and Jagan was naive, and Burnham was naive. And we know that they're not naive. So you are part of a long tradition. And I am asking whether you don't think that it must be taken into consideration that others, luminaries, rock stars before us, have dealt with this issue and they have not come up with a solution. They failed. And whether our thrust for this healing should not take into consideration the reasons why they failed.
It absolutely has to take into consideration the reason why it failed, right? So that you could avoid it.
Yes.
But I want to submit to us that there is something different happening now.
Right.
Numbers estimate that Guyana's population by 2030 could be as much as 3 million. How many of those are going to be Guyanese? Because your population don't necessarily mean citizens. And so something has happened with the coming of oil that has created conditions that would say that our unity is almost an imperative for our survival as a Guyanese nation. And that might have been something that has never existed before.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe, just maybe, we're the generation that could leverage that, as it were, to make a change, right? But we have to, it brings us right around to the question of how do we do it?
Yeah.
It brings us right around to the question of GCOM and all of these other institutions that are the ground zeros, as it were, for the kind of reform that we want to have happen. As it stands right now, there's no incentive for the PPP to change. They have power, they have money, and they have, the only thing that will make them change is if the people make them change. And for us to do that, we have got to begin to change our minds about how we perceive and our relationship to power. We have a crisis of civic imagination.
We have a crisis of civic imagination. Amanza, I think you've made the distinguishing point between past approaches and the approach to the face and the question of oil. We're now a petrol state. And I want to take you to two places. Mm-hmm. The first place is we have two arguments that have been made in the public space in relation to oil. One argument is that we have to fight Exxon to get more for Guyana, to get a fair share, a fairer share. And the other argument is that what we are getting now, is it equitably distributed? along the lines of class, along the lines of gender, along the lines of race. The problem with the two, for me, the problem with the two arguments is that they're not intersecting. We have one argument over here, licking down Exxon every day, ring fencing, this fencing, that fencing. So we're talking about equitable distribution between Exxon and Guyana. And then we have over there, we're talking about equitable distribution along the lines of social class, along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. Where do you stand on that binary?
On the issue of the distribution intra Guyana, I don't look, the statistics speak for themselves. 58% of Guyanese are living in poverty. So it is obvious by that very objective metric that the oil wealth is not flowing. As it relates to vis-a-vis the multinational corporations, I will say that, and I've said this, people are entitled to a return on their investment. I am in a time where this is what it is. This is the contract that we have. And so I have to, as an individual who operates in politics and as a political leader, focus on how am I, within these conditions that exist right now, get the best deal for my people and make sure that I don't repeat that mistake. So it looks like, okay, what are we doing with what we already have? Because again, it's about where you put your energy. Because we're already getting, and what are we doing with that? How are we auditing? How are we protecting the environment? We haven't even gotten to getting a larger share of the pie. Because what are you getting a larger pie for the PPP to thief more and to be more corrupt and to spend more? We have to strengthen our ability to fetch the water. We got to patch up the holes in the basket. That looks like a strong auditing regime. It looks like a strong department to oversee the oil industry, not a 3-man commission with Jack Deo and two of his minions, a whole petroleum commission. It looks like building out the institutions that will give us the capacity to handle. If we can't be faithful with a little bit, we can't be faithful with plenty. We can't manage what is happening now. How are we closing the efficiency gap, Doc? We're getting $14 million a day, and it's being wasted because you have an efficiency gap of 42%. So for every dollar you spend, you're wasting 42 cents on it. What are we doing about that? So I don't get myself drawn into this thing about we should have get more. What are we doing with what we have? Because I have 24 hours in the day. And those 24 hours got to be spent on making sure that we maximize what we have. So I hope that
Yes, Amanza Walton.
Where I am.
Yes. And I have to say that I share that perspective. I think we have to integrate the two advocacies, advocate for more from Exxon, but perhaps more robustly advocate for what we have to be distributed more equitably. Because, as you say, we have 24 hours in the day. And we are more likely, if we mobilize our people, to get what we have to be more equitably distributed than to get Exxon to come to the table and give we more. It's a matter of, as you said earlier, how do you divide your energies? And I like that term that you use, right? We're human beings, and we can't do everything. We can advocate for everything, but we can put more energies into certain points of the advocacy space than others. Let me ask you the other part here. You and it's going back to your optimism. You said to me only recently, but I've heard you with it many times, you mentioned it, that if in your optimism for national unity, you made the point that if the WPA and the PNC could work out their historical differences, to quote you, there's hope for Guyana. Expand.
Well, you did a fine job of highlighting exactly Brother Koyana's ideologies and we know of his history of standing up to both Bornham and Chedi on various occasions. But the lesson from that for me is this: you of the WPA had to be willing to come to the table. You had to be willing to talk. It's a non-starter if you stand there and say, you don't want to hear. There's not even the possibility of progress. And that is what keeps me inspired. We have to talk. And so there has been, find that the distance between the WPA and the PNC has not been that great, but there has been distance. And that distance was closed only because people were willing to engage in conversation. And so that is what motivates me. Because Dr. Hines, you're a very strident individual when you get ready. And the fact that you willing to sit and to talk, I said, well, if Dr. Hines could, then maybe we could. We just could. And I have to be optimistic, Doc, or else you don't want to get up on the day and face the world if you don't if you can't have that optimism and that hope to keep you going.
Amanza Walton here tonight. Our optimism is not just grounded in naivety, to use our term. I'm going to use another term. Our optimism is not just grounded in dreaming, and I'm talking about dreaming here in Dr. King's concept. I have a dream that one day, and that's Dr. King's optimism. Is grounded in that dream. But Dr. King's optimism was more than just a dream. He gave his young life to the struggle to turn the dream into reality. When he died at 38 years old, he had the heart of a 75-year-old. It's just testimony.
Wow.
Which is testimony to someone who dreamt but also worked to make that beloved community a reality. And here is Amanza Walton saying here tonight that it's grounded in a dream, but it's also grounded in a stark reality in our history, where two groups, two tendencies were at each other's throat. But at some point they talked, and they talked, and they talked. And so those of you who may want to say, well, she's dreaming, right? She made the point that it's not just an abstract dream, but a dream that is grounded in a small but significant part of our political journey. Amanza, you've been in Parliament now 5 and 1/6 years, and you have built a reputation as a very strident voice.
I guess we share that.
That is not hospitable to stridency. And recently, the issue of distribution of parliamentary committees came to the fore, and your party is the only party in the National Assembly. And I have to say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parties in the National Assembly, because the APNU is not a party, it's a coalition of
Mhm.
parties. And the APNU
Mhm.
delegation includes a WPA representative and 11 PNC representative. The WPA representative is represented through through the APNU in a parliamentary on a parliamentary committee.
Yes.
And your party is the only party that's not represented on a parliamentary committee. To the best of my knowledge, the APNU and the Win Party were amenable to work out an arrangement where you would be represented, would serve on a parliamentary committee, but that the government, or let me take that back. I want to be as accurate as possible. That the speaker, guided by the standing orders, ruled that you could not. And
Mhm.
back and forth over that, and people have been talking about the formula they use and all of that. And as a strident man, my thing is that the best formula is always the formula that will bring consensus.
Yes.
And sometimes rules do not anticipate change situation, and we have to live with that. I still think if I were the speaker, I would either temporarily suspend the standing orders in order to accommodate you in a committee or not, in a committee or two. But obviously, the speaker was adamant that he was dealing, you're a lawyer, so you know what is strict constructivism, that he's going with the letter of the standing orders rather than the spirit of the standing orders. Talk us through, what are the lessons you are learning from that? It's done. It's
Mhm.
clear that they're not going to bend the rules. It's
Mhm.
clear that the standing orders do not anticipate certain things and so forth. Um, but what I want to get from you is,
Mhm.
what lessons are you learning, and how does that inform your political moves as we move forward?
I I see it as
It seems as though there might be blackout there. Just as Amanza was about to answer, probably the question that a lot of you want answered. It might be blackout, and let's see if she's going to come back in. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101. You're out in your numbers tonight, which shows that there is an appreciation for voices that are not necessarily grounded in a large party. As I said, we know in Guyana have 4 parties. We have a first party with 36 seats, a second party with 16 seats, a third party. Here she comes. Back. Here she is. Back. Is it black out there, or your finger touched something that you weren't supposed to? Amanza, you're back with us here. You have to unmute. Yes, I think you're unmuted now. While she is sorting that out, um, while Amanza is sorting that out, just signal to me when you're ready, Amanza. All right, you're ready. So I'm reminding you of the question: what are the lessons you are learning from that tangle? She's still trying to work our stuff out there. Um, had an old friend who used to say technology baffles. I love technology, but it baffles. uh, 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 Amanza, yes, go right ahead, Amanza. She's not hearing. She's not hearing. She is not hearing. She is not hearing. So she is working on our she's working on our audio there. Good evening to you all. It's Friday. They say thank God it's Friday, and Friday means that you've come to the end of the work week. But for us political people, um, the work week doesn't end on a Friday. Thanks to all those of you who sent in your comments on the programming this week. Next week, we will try to continue. On Tuesday, we are going to be having Dr. Terence Campbell and Ganesh Maipal, the leader and whip of the APNU delegation. So we're not leaving out anybody. We are trying to bring in our guests and to get back to where we were. Amanza is trying to get our audio. Yes, yes, yes. I think she's going to come in with audio for us to continue this interview. There's still a couple of questions that I have for Amanza Walton here this evening. Thanks to those of you who have sent in your contributions. And I have to gather the names so that I can thank you at least by your first name. Some people have continued to send in their donation, although we have not been soliciting the donations. And as I said, your donations are put to good use. We, as you know, we run a website, our pages. So we just don't do the program. We also do reports and news and post stuff from others. So we maintain a website, and you may have heard me use the term my producer. We do have a producer because oh God, I can't carry the load now like long time, and so I've had to seek help. And these days you have to give people a stipend to help you and so on. And I have been getting help. So when you see the output on a daily basis from Politics 101, it is because of that help that we have been getting. Let me talk to Amanza and figure out how we will continue the interview.
See, to discover is them diamonds in the ground worth more than my life.
I want
People make me cry. Sometimes when I'm alone, people make me cry. People make me sad. Some people in this world, they make me sad. Oh, been there.
All right. That was quick.
Can you hear me, Dr. Hines?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Right.
I don't know what happened. The technology just literally blanked out at that point.
All right. Yeah. All right, Amanza. I think when we blanked out, I was asking you about what happened with the distribution of seats in Parliament. First of all, do you think the system is fair? Does the system need reform? How do you propose to reform the system, and what lessons you learned?
For me, I saw it as, and this is where I think this is where my journey is different, Dr. Hines. These things help me identify another issue for reform. And that's how I process it. This is not about Amanza being left off of a committee. Because, like I said to people, I didn't get into off the politics for, positions and so on and so forth. It's to serve the people of Guyana, to serve this country. And so it's not about Amanza being left off of a committee or Amanza it is, for me, an indication of the system failing to contemplate that a duly elected representative of the people should be able to sit on a committee. If it's Amanza, if it's David, if it's Tabitha, whoever that person is, if it's Gail Teixeira. You see, Dr. Hines, I think we have to come back to what Parliament really is. Traditionally, we have looked at Parliament as the place where politicians exercise power. That is not Parliament. Parliament is the place, is the is well, not the ultimate, because those are elections. Parliament is the place where people exercise power. Because the Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people who exercise it through their duly elected representatives. So this is not so not putting Amanza on a committee is not hurting Amanza as a person. What it is doing is that it is taking away from the people expressing the power that the people have, because Parliament is the people's house. And so it comes back what we started this show with. Early in the show, we talked about Rockstar and service and so on and so forth. We see Parliament as a place for politicians to go. We don't see Parliament as a place where the people's power is exercised, where the people's questions are answered. And we don't see Parliament as the ultimate forum to hold the government accountable for spending your tax money, for what happens to your children's school. So the paradigm has to shift. So for me, it's okay. This is something else that we need to reform, not because it adversely affects Amanza. It could be Amanza today. It could be somebody else tomorrow. And all that is doing is quelling the voice of the people. So that is my perspective on that. What it also has done is indicate to the people that the government is afraid of scrutiny. Because you see now, for example, they have said that the Economic Services Committee will meet quarterly instead of every month. And so because we confuse Parliament with personalities, we are missing the point that we keep losing our power. Because Parliament is people's power. And like I said to the speaker, this is the people's house. And the people have to understand that the degree to which their representatives are curtailed is the degree to which they are curtailed. I saw with some amusement. People say, "Oh, it's good for share thing," and what people don't realize that they're celebrating when they do that is that they're celebrating the diminution or the whittling away of their own power. Because Amanza is not there because of Amanza. Amanza is there because the people power put her in there. And then you have people, oh, you got leftover votes. And I'm like, okay, what is a leftover vote? Guyanese got up and exercised their franchise in a particular way. There are no leftover Guyanese, are there? So, Dr. Hines, that is how I process things. So people, so for me, it's always seeing what the opportunity for reform is. I'll give you an example. We have a case currently before the CCJ that we brought last year, and it has to do with ballot access and the fact that we were left off of the ballots. And people had a lot to say about, oh, this, that. And when we began to educate and to share with people why this was important, it never mattered before, because you always had these two parties and they always had everything. But when we began to break it down to people, people were like, oh, okay, this should matter, this should concern us. So because the matter never mattered before, people didn't stop to appreciate how serious it was. But it mattered. And it does matter. And this is why, in spite of the fact that they we've been slapped with all kinds of costs, we are bent on pursuing this because we see it as an area for reform. Because unless we are able to break this winner takes all politics, we're going to be trapped in this cycle over and over and over again. So it
Yes.
is done, but for me, it's just who tick another area for reform.
Take another area for reform. Amanza, let me ask you this question,
Mhm.
take in another direction. We have had a change in the political architecture, as you heard me. We used to talk about third parties, now we have to talk about fourth parties,
Both,
because
yeah.
we have had a change by virtue of how people voted at the last election. And one
Mhm.
of the consequences of that change is that there is a conversation, a serious
Mhm.
conversation about the composition of GCOM,
Mhm.
certainly on the composition of the opposition nominated members the of GCOM. And there are two arguments. One is that a new opposition leader gets the right to determine who the opposition nominees are. The other side of that argument, Vincent Alexander was here Monday night, Tuesday night, I think, and he argued that the commissioners are officers, constitutional officers, and not representatives of political parties. So if a new major opposition political party comes into power, that should not affect the representatives on the GCOM who are nominated by the opposition, that the role of the opposition leader kicks in if there is a vacancy in what is a permanent commission, so that if somebody resigns, let's say one of the three commissioners resigns or, God forbid, becomes incapacitated, then the opposition leader, the present opposition leader, gets to spearhead the process by which that vacancy is filled. I know you have uttered some views on the issue. I know you have gone as far as to suggest a nominee from your party because the opposition leader has to consult with other members of the parliamentary opposition, and you're saying, I think Pastor London is your nominee. You've also um, questioned the opposition leader's wisdom in nominating three members of his defense team in the extradition case. So you have been front and center of the issue. First, my question to you: where do you come down? Do you come down on the argument that a new opposition leader has the right to recall the nominees and replace them with quote unquote his nominees, or are you on the side that the commission is permanent and a change in the opposition leader does not mean automatic change of the nominees? Where you stand?
I'm on neither side. I am on the side that resolves this impasse in the interest of the people. And I made my point very, very clear because the leader of the opposition wrote to us, myself and Mr. Norton, and stated what his position was. And in my response, I was clear. I'm not coming down on the side that they should stay, they should go. I am interested in what the moment offers us in the interests of the people of Guyana. And because the two positions are contentious and there is not a settled constitutional position on it, is why I have decided that I will utilize my energies to how we resolve the impasse. What is true? What is true is that there are two opposing constitutional interpretation. What is true is that there is a new leader of the opposition that 110,000 people have voted for. What is true is that you have 3 serving commissioners that have a lot of institutional memory and know-how. All of those things are true at the same time. What is also true is that the opposition representation on the commission has not had the opportunity for renewal for how many? For almost a decade now. Whilst the PPP has renewed their opposition and has built capacity times over, whether who resigned, whether who passed away. So those are facts. And they're facts that leave the people in the lurch, as it were. Because this war happening on one side of the divide, you talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
This is opposition against opposition. And that does not serve the people that we were elected to represent, which is why I said that in the face of constitutional uncertainty, we still figuring out what it says. One body says it says A, one body says it says B. Usually when that happens, you end up in court.
Yes.
So what you're going to have is the opposition carrying the opposition to court.
To court.
For demoralizing our supporters. And I want it to be made clear because I see people talking a bundle of nonsense, but why not call for Claudette Singh to go? I'm going to address that. But I am concerned with the opportunity that the moment offers us. And it offers us the opportunity to show and to demonstrate that even though we are from different political parties, we can sit around the table and we can discuss matters. And that is why I have offered a compromise vision. You got 3 political parties, one person gets a nominee, and you move on and you represent the people. One from APNU, one from WIN, one from Forward Guyana Movement. Because listen, if you got 40 seats in the National Assembly, it's 3 commissioners you get in. It doesn't exceed that. If you got 20 seats, it's still 3 seats the opposition has to have on GCOM. So why not strike a compromise that best reflects the composition of the opposition, that everybody feels represented and included, and we move on to shake up this system so that we could get electoral reform that we badly need in this country. That is within the control of the opposition. We can call for Claudette Singh to move from now till tomorrow morning on until she resigns, or Irfan tells she to go home and she is replaced. That is not within our power. What is within our power is how the opposition utilizes this moment for renewal. That is what we can control. And that is where my focus is. And this is why I said, APNU get 1. You retain one of the commissioners that were put there by APNU because they have significant institutional memory. APNU gets 1. WIN gets 1. Forward Guyana gets 1. And we move on with the business of the people. So there's where I stand.
Amanza Walton Desir. Desir. Amanza Walton.
That's fine. Amanza. I tell people my name is Amanza. Amanza's fine.
Amanza here tonight, giving us some of the reasoning behind some of the positions that she has taken and reported in the media. Amanza, I was not going to go in this direction tonight, but you mentioned some of the pushback against you, and not just pushback from the government side, which is anticipated, but pushback from the opposition side, that pushback is grounded in our partisan politics, our history of partisan politics. The fact that you were part of one of the major parties and you have decided to leave, it means that there is a certain kind of response. As I said, when I talk to young people, I have a nuanced response. And the nuanced response is we don't like the fact that she gone and she left, all right? But we still believe that she's part of us and she must come back. And as political people, we have to, you know, try to decipher what is being told to us, because there's a message behind the words there. Have you reflected? And if you have reflected, do you leave open the possibility of an internal or intra-group reconciliation at the level of leadership? Because that's what it is. All right. It is not the first time that we've had to deal with this thing. I mean, Burnham go away from Jagan. Quayan and Martin Carter and them go away from Jagan. Two split in 1 year. Llewellyn John and them go away from Burnham.
We had Hamilton Green leaving.
Hamilton Green go away from Burnham.
From
Chandy
the
Singh.
no, not Burnham. This was during Heights time.
During Height. Chandy Singh and Tika, they go away from Jagan and so on. It's not a new phenomenon that we have had to deal with. Llewellyn John, Hamilton Green, they found themselves right back in the PNC at a certain point. So that's not new. Brindley Ben go away in 1968. He was a deputy in Jagan Party. And he left in 1968 because he said Jagan too soft. Jagan wins in 1992 and he said Brindley come back home. And Brindley come back home. Brindley got two children who serve in PPP government and so on. I'm giving that history to say, in a sense, this is a family story regarding Guyana, you know. And that's the sociological part of it.
You started off with you and Gail in the drama group.
Yeah. Gail and I were walking up the step the other day in Parliament, and the first thing I said, Gail, oh, your daughters. Because I knew them when they were babies. And I said, but they got turned big lady now. And she said, one is 37 and one is something. That was our conversation, not politics. Right? As we walking up, and she remembered my daughter. And she asked me, how is my daughter? Just at an aside. Have you reflected on the larger sociological and political consequence of your political move away from the PNC/APNU? And what are the lessons you're learning? Is there space? Because you've been talking a lot tonight about reconciliation. As that reflection, those reflections cause you to, let me leave it to you. Go ahead.
I think I was the foremost person to say that the opposition will have to work together. And people say, oh, she says split the vote and whatever and whatever. And I keep making the point and the crisis of civic imagination that we have. And there was a young lady that did a beautiful TED talk on our democracy and us reimagining what we can do. And for me, I am sure in what I did, because I'm very clear that the two-party winner-takes-all system will never serve Guyana. It will never serve Guyana. And I want that to be made very clear. This is not about hurting the PNC or hurting this person or the other person. This is about service to Guyana. And I challenge anybody to talk, to find something where I have said anything negative about the members of the PNC. Those are my Guyanese brothers and sisters, and I love them. But I also have to be true to what is happening on the inside of me. And what is happening on the inside of me is a fierce raging against a political system that has kept us locked into this thing. And not because I leave to make sure that that voice is amplified means that there is no room for talking and cooperating. Burnham gave Jagan tactical support and so on at some points along the
You mean,
journey.
yeah, Jagan give critical support to Burnham.
Jagan gave critical support is the word that I'm looking for. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Right? And so people talk about people being hurt, etc. Because what have I done? Have I gone to the PPP? No, I have not.
Say that again.
My fight is against the PPP. It's not against APNU and PNC. Ideologically, I do not believe that there is paramountcy of party and all of that. Paramountcy is paramountcy of Guyana, and I make no apologies for it. None whatsoever. And if the only thing that I am able to impart in this political journey is that we got to be true and dedicate our energies towards the happiness and prosperity of Guyana, then so be it. I have no apologies to make for it, and I want that to be made clear. So for me, it is about how do we break this political system that says that you got to be under one of these two giants to make an impact on the political landscape of Guyana. I reject that. And a lot of people are having difficulties because people like to put you in a box, and you make people uncomfortable when they can't put you in a box. And so
Man,
you
sir,
have
your mother.
Yes.
Let me go down here. Your mama
Yes.
and your daddy.
Right.
Rather talks about Trinity to the bone.
Uncle, my
You're
grandmother, all of them
Or PNC to the bone.
were PNC to the bone.
How do you balance that with this independent position that you have taken?
Because I am not anti-PNC. I am anti a system that keeps Guyana trapped in a two-party system. This is why I could speak to anybody from the PNC. This is why I could embrace. This is why I could hug, because my fight is not against you. Our political leaders of the past have done us a disservice in that they have made it appear to be that because you differ ideologically, and I can tell you about something about my parents. The one thing that they taught me is to must be true to what I believe. And that is what they believed at the time. And so I would be doing their memory a disservice if I were not to be true to what I believe. And I believe that the two-party system, in terms of it being a monolithic block, nothing wrong with coalitions and coming together, etc. And this is why you have movements, because they're responsive to a particular time. They're responsive to something that is happening in the country at a particular time. So, Dr. Hines, that is how I truly feel, and I regret that people feel, oh, they're hurt. But you know what amuses me more than anything else? There are people who have stood in the PNC. There are people who have been in leadership position in the PNC, and they left to go join the PPP and put on a red shirt. I left because I believe in a deeper truth for the people of Guyana. And I get more hell than the people who have actually gone there.
Why?
Behind people that they have been cussing for years.
Why? Because that's a very important observation.
You got to tell me why. You've got to tell me why. Right? You've got to tell me why. You the sociologist. It ain't me. I ain't the sociologist. You've got to tell me why. And so these are things that we have to study. And I thank God for them same parents that I had, them same parents, because they were tough, they were strong, and they said, girl, you got to be true to you. You got to be true to what you truly believe God is saying to you that you are here to do. And I don't have no apologies about it. And let me say, a lot of people start off as being misunderstood. But I am happy that we are here, that I have this platform, and that I'm able to speak into the lives of Guyanese in the way that I could not have done.
Amanza, You
I
want me to bring to bear my study of politics and
tell
sociology and
me.
history and answer your question? Because them that gone with the red shot, they don't think they would make a difference. But they think that you would make a difference. You're going or going back would make a difference. And I tell you, as Mr. Nelson is saying in my country, in my village, Mr. Nelson, he said that's the gospel truth, not gospel. He said that is
The
the gospel.
gospel.
Yes, the gospel
Dr. Hani, I
truth.
am here. I am here and I am using every breath and sinew in my body, not to serve Amanza, but to serve the people of Guyana. And this is why I started off by saying I don't want to be a rock star. Because when you elevate us as political leaders to that kind of thing, you forget that we are your servants and you become our servants. And that is an inversion of democracy. And so for me, people, Nigel and I were having a laugh the other night, my comrade Nigel London, because we were saying, oh, people said I send you to GCOM because she want to share the seat. And we are sitting there and we're laughing because that is not how we think. If you believe that GCOM is ground zero for electoral reform, you send your strongest soldiers there because that is where the battle is. But because we view Parliament and people in Parliament as rock stars, as power and patronage and not service, that is why you will find people saying things like that. If you understood that Parliament was grueling work, that a commissioner at GCOM gets paid must be 3 times what an MP gets anyway. If you want to get down to brass tacks, so it certainly can't be about the money Parliament paying you.
Uh, uh, uh.
See the point?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I make the point in that because even as a population we have that paradigm, we can wound people who are genuinely wanting to serve, and people will say all kinds of things, they will do all kinds of things, but at the end of your life, the only thing that you are responsible for, doctor, is your effort. That's the only thing you got control over. You do not necessarily have control over the results, but by God, you have full control over what you put in and how much you put in and the integrity with which you pursued what you believe. And that is where I am. And some people will love you, some people will hate you. You don't see Jack Dio sitting down and obsessing about who don't like him and whatever. That is the nature of politics. You take your position and you stand by it and you fight for it. And if as you grow and as you evolve, you have the humility to say, you know what? At that time, I saw it this way, but because of these conditions, I have had to reevaluate. And this is now a more advantageous position. Then you do that. And there's nothing wrong. It's called growth. There's nothing wrong with growth. There's nothing wrong with evolution.
Amanzo, we
And
both like David Rudder. We both know in the same boat. We both in the same boat because
mhm,
we belong to so-called third parties. What's the role of third parties in contemporary post-independence oil petrostate Guyana? The role of third parties in petrostate Guyana.
to raise the consciousness of the people of Guyana, because you are not locked in this battle for supremacy, as it were.
Mhm.
And so it's not a numbers, it's a quality. It's not quantity, it's qualitatively what you have to contribute. And maybe as you move along, you may have to come back together in a coalition and whatever. But the consciousness of the people must evolve. And so when AFC came on board, it was out of a cry for a different thing. Forward Guyana is here as a response to a different thing and a different time. Doesn't make it wrong. And particularly because you don't see them compromising with who I truly believe is the bane of the existence of the people of Guyana, which is the leadership of the PPP, not even the PPP supporters, but that cabal in Freedom House. And so we are here to awaken the consciousness and to elevate the consciousness of people. Brother Bob said we got to emancipate ourselves. And people like me, I think we are uniquely positioned to do it because we do not have the constraint that structured party system has. And if the leader says so, you have to say so. And so it enables us to express and to elevate. Because in another system, Amanza could come out and say X, Y, Z. And even if what Amanza said makes sense, if the head of that party comes out and says something else, forget all that Amanza has said. And so it stifles our ability to resolve because you have to become one of two things. You have to become a dictator, like you see in the PPP where nobody can get out the line or whatever, or you have to be somebody that elevates the consciousness of the people so that the people of their own free will and volition come along to higher ground.
Amanza Walton, one of the roles of third parties in contemporary Guyana is to raise the consciousness of the people that quantity may not be on the side of third parties, and so quality must be the substitute for quantity. And there may be reporters who are watching this program tonight. I learned that reporters looking for news watch these programs. Amanza said something that I hope did not escape your attention. She said that maybe we got to come back together in a coalition. Amanza, so you are not ruling out being in a coalition with your old party, your mother and father party?
Let me answer it this way. When the elections were done, I wrote to both Comrade Norton and Azruddin Mohammed. And I sent a 5-page framework for opposition collaboration in the 13th Parliament. Because elections are one thing. Governance and holding government accountable is a different thing. I think what happens with us very often is that we have been conditioned to be in a perpetual state of campaigning. In campaign season, a person and a party has a right to distinguish themselves. That is the nature of a campaign. To say, this is what I stand for, give me a shot. You know, the unfortunate part about the system that we have is that you run for, the only thing they recognize is a presidential and a prime ministerial candidate. Right?
Yes.
So in some other countries, you could run for a particular Senate seat here and there. And so these are the types of conversations that I want us to have, Dr. Hines. Does this political system need to evolve to the point where before you could come to Parliament, the people in the area got to nominate you rather than a list system that one man or woman could just hold everybody to ransom? Do we need to go back to that system where you have to win in an area and then you go to Parliament? Is the unicameral legislation, the one house legislature working for us? Or do we need to be bicameral, as is most of our Caribbean neighbors? And so these are the types and quality of conversations that I want to have. You think I got time for, hey, she get left off of a committee seat? There are weightier things that attract my mind and attention, that when you and I would have departed this earth, we could look back and say, you know, yes, we did a good thing for Guyana. We set them on a particular path. And then here, what, another 60 years, they realize we have evolved to a degree that this model and construct is no longer working, that we got men and women like Amanza that can buck the system and say, hey, yeah, this here, the time up, it ain't working for we no more. Let me get something new and better.
Let me end with two stories and two short stories, and then I give you for your closing remarks. You all know that I just take out my wild cane and
Yes.
eat sometime, and I take out the
What
wild
do now?
cane.
Oh Lord.
I take out the wild cane a couple of times on a man's, and I bumped into a man. So the first day Parliament, she said, "Doc, I know you beat me up, but I still love you." And and today at the WP executive meeting, they asked me, "Who you getting on tonight?" I say, "Amanza." I said, "Well, I got to come on and watch." You didn't hear not one person say, "Well, she left the APNU and she is not WPA, so me and coming." They said they come in and watch. And I tell those two stories because I think they reflect a deeper kind of politics that we have to strive for. That the enslaved had to and still do constantly ask the question what it is to be human, because there was a time when the law, the custom said you were not human. And so I come from that tradition that is constantly asking what it is to be human. If our politics were confined to that hard-nosed thing that Amanza was talking about, the good for she, and so on and so forth, Amanza would never tell me, "Doc, you beat me, but I still love you." And them hard-nosed WPA people would not say, "You're getting Amanza tonight, I gotta watch." They would have said, "Suck your teeth, man, she go and live free," and so on and so forth. And I think for me, that's what keep me going in politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the beginning, there was the word, and I was part of that word with God, insofar as my Christian English church teachings go. And I think in the end, it is we, the believers, who make God possible. God created us, but we are the believers. And if we do not believe in God, there is no God. All right? And so I just want to put that element there. I know sometimes I rub even my supporters the wrong way. When I call Jack Dio, brother Jack Dio, they just cuss me nasty. That is why you always calling these people. They won't kill you, they ain't get time for you, not their brother. And I gonna take the blows. But where I come from, a brother is a brother. There's blood brother, and then there is the brother in the larger cosmos. I am still hoping that my activism can make Jack Dio a brother. I'm still hoping that my activism can make that political coward Freddie Kissoon a brother. You know?
Yeah.
And so therefore, perhaps I getting old. All right? And they're losing some of the stridency. Because sometimes the logic of where you go, Amanza, you set a strident example, and your supporters expect you to be strident 24 hours in a day.
It comes from let's go to David Rudder, eh? Day of the Warlord. He asked the question, how do you tell a nation that its head is bloody?
Yes.
Short of beating it over the head.
Yes.
So how do we let our country know that we're wounded, short of exposing and touching the wounds? Right? But in that song, he says it's up to the good people. Right? He says, what was the chorus? Even in this loud desperation and raging despair.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We gotta let them know that the good people say so. Right? He said our babies are watching. Right? He said we gotta tell them no. And so, in various forms for me, it comes as a no to a two-party system, a winner-takes-all system. that we gotta change, Doc, if we are gonna. And this country is a beautiful country. Guyanese are some of the most beautiful people, but we have lost the indomitability of our spirit.
Amanza, um, I'm so glad that we did this interview tonight. I think you've clarified for me because
Mhm.
often we hear the consequences of thought and not the origins of thought.
Aha.
And I think I've gotten to some of the origins of your thought. I with you on the two-party system must go. I with you on winner take all system must go. I think if winner take all system goes, the two-party system is weakened.
Absolutely.
And so they're bound together. Thank you very much for coming on, and I shall see you. I was about to say shortly, but I say in the fullness of time because
In
we
the
don't
fullness of time. We can't say very soon, very shortly.
very shortly.
But
Thank you
I
so
will say this, Dr. Hyde.
yes. Uh-huh.
One of the chief agendas of Forward Guyana movement has been that Parliament must work.
Yeah.
Are getting there in that they are working. We got to now work on the regularity. And that's the next mission. We got to get Parliament to meet more often. There must be in our standing orders a timeline that says every 21 or 14 days or whatever, a sitting of the National Assembly must happen. And I want to make the point as to why, Doc. You see, opposition is a part of government. And every fourth sitting is the opportunity for the opposition to bring private members' bills, which means the opposition gets the opportunity to showcase in the National Assembly what its agenda is for the people of this nation. And so if the PPP could keep less sittings and not get to a fourth sitting in the time, they would happily do it because it robs us of making a lot of the interventions that we need to make as an opposition party. We've got to look at migration. We've got to look at the issue of environmental protection, etc. There's so much that we have to look at that this government will never bring to the National Assembly. But if they don't get to a fourth sitting, we never get to table that.
You never get. And for what it's worth, man, so I just
Mhm.
want you to know that the WPA, myself, we are in support of moving from a part-time parliament to, at a minimum, a half-time parliament. You don't move from a part-time to a full-time parliament, as in places like the United States and Britain and so on, but we are in support of moving away from a part-time parliament to at least a half-time parliament. And while we don't use the same language, I think
Mhm.
our objective is the same. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, Doc. And invite me anytime. You see this low talk about you get big and whatever, whatever. If you invite me, I will come. I will come. I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart for the country. I know very often sometimes you take some positions, but I know that it comes from a place of love for your fellow man. And so I deeply appreciate you and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, my sister.
All right. Take care. God bless.
God bless. And I enjoy these kinds of interviews, because I think what it does is it shows that we have a heart and we have souls, and that politics could be lonely, especially party politics, could be lonely. It could make you cuss and go on bad and so on. And at the end of the day, you got to still sleep when night come. You still got to sleep when night come. You still got to say howdy to people. You still got to skin your teeth and laugh. Sometimes you ask people story and they answer and they say, well, and they say, well, me can't cry. Why you laugh? Well, me can't cry We can't cry all the time. And so when you can sit back in Caribbean, African, Guyanese, cultural reflexes and have a chat, have a gaff, it brings you back to it. Birds that fly high. Birds that fly high, says Brother Valentino, must come down to die high. Must come down to die. Birds that fly high must come down tonight. I think today we came down, and we had a conversation. We don't belong to the same party. I get vexed with Amanza sometimes in the last year or so. They got me wild cane, put some lash punchy and thing, and so on. But I think all of that we put in context. Remember last night? Context. Context matters. I love you all. It's Friday. We made it through the week. 5 shows this week. Next week on Tuesday, Dr. Terence Campbell and Ganesh Mai Paul will be here. I'm part of that parliamentary delegation. When they call me, and I hope they listen, when they call me, may I know you. You're in the hot seat, just like Amanza or Vincent or them by last night, or, well, no, Ogun is my blood brother. So Ogunse get a little different kind of treatment. There must be a little bit of bias. I love you all. And without that love, we are nothing.